You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport. How are you over there on the other side of my computer?
Oh, I'm well. Thanks for asking. May I ask you how you are?
I'm wonderful. I have something cold and delicious in my hand that I'm ready to
Would
crack.
you say it's a special drink?
Yeah. You remember last week I told you about my friend Haley?
Yeah.
She sent me some special drinks. Tonight I am sampling a Mountain Dew Voodoo. It says right on there, mystery flavor. I don't know what it is, but I thank Haley for whatever it is. I know it's Mountain Dew, so it's got a lot of caffeine, so we may get through the topics quick tonight.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Again, I don't have a parcel of special drinks sitting in my house to pull from at any given moment, but I did get something that you could argue is a special drink. It's a vitamin water.
Okay, that's cool.
Delicious, refreshing.
Other than drinks, any news to report, anything going on in your life or on your island of Cape Breton?
Well, I didn't get to sip my drink yet. Do you mind if I have a little sip?
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're going to say take my time? Okay, I will.
Take your time, yeah.
Special. Okay. What's new here? Not too much. Just work is really busy because we're, gearing up for our holiday break. So leading up to the break, there's a lot to do and very little time to do it in. So I'm just kind of in that mode right now.
Did you get a letter off to Santa? I know it's difficult for people with Canada Post striking. I had a hard time. I had to send something through UPS to get to the man.
Yeah. I just gave him a call and
okay.
Yeah, I have a cell number.
Okay, sweet. Let's get into the stories, though. We're here to keep Canada weird by seeking out, highlighting, exploring, celebrating the week in weird news. But before we get into this week's stories, let's catch up on a story from last week, specifically the deer in the high visibility vest. That was a story that got a lot of attention. I've heard from a lot of people with differing opinions on why the deer was dressed in a vest, if it could be dangerous to the deer. Some people had felt that it's certainly someone's pet, and they're putting the vest on it to prevent it from getting hit by cars, which is something that we speculated. But we got an update on this story. I'm going to play you a voicemail I received from a listener named Aurora, who lives in the area that the deer was actually seen. And this is, I don't know if it's a sad update, but it's a pretty shocking update, considering that we just spoke about this story last week. Here it is.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. My name's Aurora. I'm calling from northern BC. I was born and raised in McBride, which might sound familiar. The location of your deer and high-vis story. I was originally calling to give you a bit of a conspiracy theory about the deer sneaking into somebody's house and maybe stealing the jacket, but I have an update on the story instead. So a deer was actually rescued from drowning in the Fraser River over the weekend, and as it turns out, this deer had some black fabric stuck around its neck. So the deer's okay now. He was rescued from the water and held overnight and taken care of by the lovely people of McBride. But yeah, looks like whoever may have placed the jacket on the deer put the deer in quite a bit of trouble. So anyways, big fan of the show. I've been listening for a long time, so it was fun to hear my hometown be mentioned.
So let's talk this out here. So this voicemail that I got included a photograph of just after some deer was pulled out of the water in and around the area that the deer with the high visibility vest was last seen. And the deer in the photo that I was sent has something kind of draped around his neck. And I'm pretty sure it's a high visibility vest, but it was just all kind of messed up from whenever they pulled it out of the water. But I'm pretty sure it's the same deer. What are the chances?
Right. Well, unless this is a serial vester that's going around and vesting multiple deer, that's possible. So maybe it wasn't just the one deer that had the visibility vest put on it.
Yeah.
There's still things we don't know. We can only speculate right now.
If it's the same deer, which I believe it is, it's just a big coincidence that that deer was in the news and randomly had to be pulled out of water and rescued by people.
Well, what other hijinks is this deer going to get into next? Is the question. This deer is maintaining a public life right now, and it probably feels the pressure of needing to one up itself every time that it wants to get into the news. So it's like, well, if the news is going to cover me again this week, it can't just be that I'm wearing a sweater or I'm wearing a dress or whatever. Maybe I have to fall into some water and be rescued and be like, oh my God, it's the visibility vest deer. And then next week it's going to be like, well, I'm going to have to maybe get stuck on somebody's roof, maybe, and there'll be some kind of a thematic Christmas element to that.
Well, Rudolph, he's going to just.
But Rudolph's nose was red. He didn't need a high visibility vest, but this deer hopefully will be wearing the vest when they get stuck on the roof somehow.
So we know it's the same one. That's like kind of his calling card.
Well, that's the trademark. Yeah, it has to be wearing its vest.
Maybe we can inspire this deer with some ideas on how to capture people's attention, because we certainly have some weird stories that captured Canadian news watchers' attentions over the past week. Let's start with a bit of a cautionary tale. I want to open the show with a bit of a consumer alert here. A situation recently played out in Toronto that made it necessary that we provide Keep Canada Weird listeners with some potentially life-saving advice. If a stranger at a dog park invites you to his home for cosmetic surgery, say no. This news story will tell you why.
A Toronto man is facing charges after allegedly posing as a surgeon. The man, identified only as USAC, allegedly approached 4 women at a dog park pretending to be a cosmetic surgeon at a local hospital. He then offered cosmetic procedures to the women from his residence. Police say the women believed they were receiving Botox, Ozempic, and salmon DNA injections. They were alerted to the incidents when victims became suspicious of the man's behavior and found out he didn't have the proper qualifications.
What a shock that the cosmetic surgeon at the dog park didn't have the proper accreditations to inject salmon DNA into people.
Yeah, the cosmetic surgeon at the dog park that approached you and said, hey, did you know I'm a surgeon and we could go back to my apartment and I'll fill you with Botox and Ozempic, whatever other nonsense that you want to be completely filled with.
Yeah. What could go wrong, eh?
Yeah. This is one of those circumstances where I do not blame the criminal.
Yeah. Well, also, who is this mystery man? They don't even know his name in the news. They're like, identified only as USAC. Like, they didn't even get this guy's name yet. He's just this mystery surgeon that people are willing to go back to his house and get injected.
I can't believe that anybody in half of a right mind would, after being approached by a complete stranger in a dog park who says they're a plastic surgeon, would go back to their house or their apartment or their lair or whatever you want to call it and get injected with anything by this person. Like, that is, we talk about how a lot of people get scammed on this show, and we start to lose sympathy for people who are getting scammed because it's like, come on, the information is out there. These scams are happening all the time. And so we kind of give a hard time now to these victims, and these particular victims, you couldn't pay me to have sympathy for these people.
I am much more willing to give someone access to my banking information than inject my skin with a needle. Like, I'm going to double, triple check before you poke anything.
And what's this salmon DNA thing? What's that all about?
I have never heard of that. Maybe it's one of those kind of like holistic medicine kind of things, it sounds like.
I'm sure some listeners are just heading to nighttimepodcast.com/contact right now to fill us in on what the potential benefits of injecting yourself with salmon DNA are, but
If anyone knows, I'd love to hear. It certainly sounds like I'm pitching 100 ideas for a future comic book to Marvel Comics. One of them involves this guy who injected salmon DNA and became Fishman. That's all I can assume. Why else would you want salmon DNA? What could it possibly do for you?
I imagine there's probably, and now again, I'm not allowed to Google on this show.
So guess what the hell?
I need to be handcuffed to my desk right now to not Google because I'm dying to Google this right now, but I'm not going to. But I imagine it's similar to like how people would eat like shark fin soup because they believed that sharks didn't get cancer, so that there was anti-cancer properties.
Okay,
Within eating shark fin and things like that.
But that makes sense maybe though, because maybe it's some oils or fats or some kind of thing in the shark fins that can help you. But DNA is like the code that your body uses to build itself.
Sure.
But I don't believe digesting the DNA of a salmon would make your human DNA
would alter
do anything
it
different.
Yeah. So maybe they're planning to, maybe there's some kind of a competitive river swimming competition that they're getting into. And it's like, I need as much salmon DNA that I can get on the black market as possible.
But this is at a dog park. He's not at a swimming meet. Like, should it not be dog DNA or?
Well, maybe he saw them and he's like, there's 4 swimmers right there. I can tell. And I just happen to be a plastic surgeon with bottles and bottles of salmon DNA at the ready, and some Ozempic if you're interested.
Yeah, that's trendy right now. Maybe it's like, come for the Ozempic, stay for the salmon DNA.
I think you come for the salmon DNA, and you might as well sample some Ozempic while you're at it.
Yeah, it's the cross sell, the upsell.
Yeah,
since you're here. Well, actually, that plays into your, like, aren't like professional swimmers often like kind of slender and sleek? And doesn't Ozempic make you lose weight?
It's a diabetes drug that also helps with weight loss. So it's
well, there you go. That's what's happening. This guy's trying to genetically engineer competitive swimmers.
Yeah, that's I think we cracked the case. Yeah, I think we got to the bottom of it. Yeah, it was easy for us. It's amazing that law enforcement hasn't tapped into us as a resource yet.
Mm-hmm. When they can't solve a case, they should contact a psychic and us separately,
and or together. We'll get a Zoom call going with local law enforcement, the police chief, the psychic, and you and I, and we'll just hash it out.
Since we solved this one, let's move on to another story. This isn't so much of a mystery as it is just a baffling case of not necessarily dumb Canadian criminals, but bold Canadian criminals. This is a story coming out of Edmonton, but I think it's going to be relevant for everybody because here in Canada, we're recording this at the beginning of December. It's tire changeover season. So of course, many of us are scrambling to get our summer tires swapped out for our winter tires before the first major snowstorm hits. And doing it is an annoying task, but it could be much worse. A lady from Edmonton is having a much more complicated tire problem than anyone listening to this show is having. Listen to the story of the tires being pulled off of a car in Edmonton. Here it comes.
A brazen tire heist in West Edmonton. This security camera video from Wednesday morning shows a person using a pickup truck to pull the tires off Shannon Malotte's vehicle.
Honestly, I was completely shocked by what I saw.
In the video, you can see the person loading tires into the box of their truck. Then they reverse and pull another tire free. The truck drives off, leaving the vehicle without a single wheel.
It slid my whole car right over.
It was an unfortunate discovery for Malotte. She woke up Wednesday morning to a phone notification saying her tire pressure was low. When she went to check it out, what she found was much more serious than an air leak.
My back end was halfway into the street, and I thought someone had hit my car at first, and then I got closer and realized my car's on the ground. It had no tires, no rims, and it was just sitting on its rotors.
Malott had to buy 4 spare tires just to get her vehicle into a shop.
2 tow trucks in a row come the next day saying, I can't take your car. It's on the ground. I need wheels.
Malott says she's contacted her insurance company and reported the theft to police. Edmonton police were not able to comment on the incident Sunday. Malott is still waiting to find out the full extent of the damage and what it will cost.
It's going to cost me out of pocket for sure. It's not all covered by insurance.
Times are tough in this country where you would consider stealing tires off of somebody's car, but even if you took that step and you went that far to steal tires, I wouldn't imagine the way you would have done it is just kind of like putting a chain around someone's tire, attaching the other end of your truck and just tearing the things off. Is that normal? That's shocking to me.
It doesn't sound normal. No, I imagine you're risking damaging. Well, I mean, they're not going to care about the vehicle, the thieves, but couldn't you possibly be damaging the rim by doing that, by yanking the tire right off? I would imagine.
I would think so, but maybe they only want the tire, and they're just gonna, if they damage the rim, they're just gonna chuck it or something. But rims are valuable too. I would be more concerned about would just be the noise that would make. I can't imagine how loud it would be to tear 4, one after another, tearing wheels off of a car with my big truck.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like the noise that it made was what alerted anyone that this was happening. It was the fact that they came out and their tires were gone.
Yeah, and their back end was out in the road. Yeah, all 4 tore off.
So she did not wake up in the middle of the night being like, "What's that sound? That's got to be someone yanking my tires off without
you would never
using any
it.
tools."
Yeah, this is in Edmonton. It looks like she lives in in the city. I would have assumed that, I don't know, some kind of construction truck, street cleaner, maybe a garbage truck. I think if you were going to do this, a good night to do it would be on garbage night. If I heard banging outside my house on garbage night, I'd be like, someone's going through my recyclables.
Right. Yeah, sure. But I mean, that's 2 different sounds to me. I don't think they're going to make the same kind of sounds.
Yeah. Well, just on the topic of sounds, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but not too far from where I live, they're building like a new subdivision. So they had to clear this big area. So they cut down all the trees and all this stuff. So now I have deer and foxes roaming around my neighborhood all the time. But what they're doing is they're blasting in the ground with with dynamite or something. But every day, 5 times a day, if not more, I hear this really loud horn. It'll blast 3 or 4 times, and then the earth shakes and my house rattles.
Really?
The horn is, I guess, warning, an explosion's coming, and then you just hear boom. And it just rumbles. And I'm I think I'm a couple kilometers away from where this is happening. But when I'm in the basement of my house, and you can hear the window panes shaking on my house. It's kind of wild.
Wow. It's that powerful. That's impressive. Yeah, and exciting too. Do you find it exciting?
No, but yeah, at first it was exciting because I thought it was a mysterious thing. I didn't realize what it was. And then I started asking around, have you guys been noticing, a boom? And they're like, yeah, it's that new subdivision, everyone talks about. I was like, oh shit,
yeah,
I gotta get out more. I gotta get out more.
Yeah.
But all that to say, given the blasting in my neighborhood, I'm a little sensitive to sounds. I think my ears would perk up if someone was tearing parts off of my car with their truck. That's new to me. I brought this story forward because I don't think I've ever thought about how you would steal car wheels from someone's car, but I assumed it would involve being dressed in black with one of those
with a tire iron and
like a race car.
Well, that's kind of loud. I would go with the old school tire iron is what I would go with.
Yeah, that's true. Slip in, slip out.
Yeah, it's a little bit more grunt work, but I mean, you're stealthier that way, and then you just quietly take the wheels off and head on to your next victim.
While we consider how we would steal wheels or tires from cars.
Yeah, which is something we do often.
Let's take a quick break. We'll think of the best way to do it, and we'll come back with another duo of weird Canadian news stories from the past week. So at the beginning of the show, Aaron, we revisited a past story, which was the deer in McBride wearing the high visibility vest. We're about to revisit a past story in a roundabout way. I guess this is revisiting a past theme. I think it was about maybe 2 years ago, in the early days of the show, we talked about, I think it was a shoe store in Vancouver that had a unique way of preventing people from loitering, i.e. sleeping on the ground outside of their business overnight. Another business seems to be doing the same thing. So longtime listeners of Keep Canada Weird may think this is a rerun, but it's happening again. It's almost been 2 years since we last covered the use of baby shark as a defense for private property. But here we are again. A shopping mall in Montreal has been playing a sped up version of Baby Shark throughout portions of the mall that are accessible overnight, and opinions are divided about it. Here is another story of Baby Shark being used defensively.
For about a year, the popular children's song, Baby Shark, has been playing inside some emergency stairways at Complexe des Jardins. The owners of the shopping mall are hoping it's deterring people from sleeping in the stairwells.
I mean, yeah, it would work for me. I would leave. I hate that song.
It's a little insensitive.
This person has heard the music playing.
I was just very surprised by it, and I was like, it made it feel more unsafe than I think somebody there might have been making it feel.
Located in downtown Montreal, Complexe des Jardins has offices and a shopping mall. And while playing music to discourage unhoused people from seeking shelter inside can be uncommon, the method is not new. Some stores in the United States play classical music to keep people away. James Hughes from Old Brewery Mission says Complexe des Jardins should change its approach when dealing with this issue.
You know, very unfortunate, to be perfectly honest, that a very sophisticated organization like the Complexe des Jardins is resorting to that kind of tactic.
Hughes says more housing is the solution. Since playing the music, they say they've noticed fewer people staying in the stairways. But despite all that, Hughes says Complexe des Jardins could be doing better.
They cannot use, loud noises to try to move people on. That's inhumane.
So we got a few sides of this story to talk about. First of all, would it work? I think so.
I honestly, in the wintertime, it wouldn't deter me. I would 100% stay in that stairwell if it was warm and kept me dry and I could spend the night there and it's freezing out. I would put up with a sped up version of Baby Shark playing on loop over and over and over again all night long.
I guess it's the kind of like path of least resistance thing, though. If there are 3 areas that I can go to get out of the cold, one is blasting a sped up version of Baby Shark and the other 2 are quiet, I'm certainly going to choose the other 2. So I think it's maybe
the easy answer is earplugs. Be like, no, nobody wants to stay in the Baby Shark stairwell anymore. So I just went and got a cheap pair of earplugs and I go in there and put them in and get a great night's sleep.
And it's all mine.
Private and nobody bothers me in there and it's great.
What do you think of blah, 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 Des Jardins? I couldn't make out the name of it.
Because they put the stank on it, even when somebody doesn't have an accent, they give themselves an accent when they say the name of that complex.
Yeah.
The Complexe des Jardins.
Yeah.
It's just like, is he speaking totally normal like one of the guys was? He's like, oh, yes, we're here at Complexe des Jardins. Like, what are you doing? Why are you coming up with a stereotypical French character to say the name of that business?
It is true. I noticed that as well. But I don't know how I feel about them kind of pointing the finger at Complexe des Jardins as being like, they need to come up with a different problem or a different solution to this because of, homelessness and all. A part of me is like, is it the mall? Should the mall be tasked with coming up with solutions for that? They just want to keep people out of their mall or out of their, those stairwells. It just seems a little weird to point the finger at the mall in that way.
I guess it's more the tactic that they're using, not the fact that they're trying to keep people out of the stairwell, but more of how they're doing it. comes across as insensitive, I guess is the argument. So
I guess it could be. Well, what about inhumane? That was one of the words that was used. Like it was an inhumane thing to do. I'm sure way worse stuff is commonly done, probably in city buildings to keep unhoused people from going into their publicly accessible areas. Like I wonder what town hall in Montreal does. Is it inhumane? They probably just have a security guard that shoos them out of there.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know what other businesses do
Hmm.
to keep people out, but I would have to be working there to understand the issue a bit more. Like, are they just sleeping in there, or is there other issues that are arising from them being in there? I don't know enough about it.
Could there be a worse song?
A worse song?
Yeah.
Macarena, maybe?
Oh, that's popular with kids again. I was
Is it?
oh my gosh, yeah. I was had a couple 6-year-olds around not too long ago. I was at a playground with my kid and a couple 6-year-olds. They were all singing Macarena.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, oh, it must be, like a new version of it. But no, I think they were singing the original version that we know and
The
love.
original? Okay.
So,
Well, you know, the world is going to hell, so it's
what?
just part of the process. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are right around the corner. The Macarena has made a comeback. Um, yeah, all the biblical signs are there.
Yeah. Uh, let's move on to something, maybe one of the more complicated stories we're ever going to unpack or have ever unpacked in the history of Keep Canada Weird. I received an email from a listener named Craig letting us know that something very weird is happening in Dorchester, New Brunswick. What it is and what's being done about it, they're all kind of matters of speculation at this point, because one thing is certain is that City Hall or the town council in Dorchester, New Brunswick doesn't want to talk about it. Let me set it up this way. Like many towns, Dorchester, New Brunswick has a sign on its main entrance welcoming people to the town, and it features the town motto, an easy place to live. But recently, someone painted over the sign, changing it to instead say, a weird place to live. And the town's council does not want to talk about the change in motto or the other sign that was added to advertise a local bed and breakfast that's being run out of a decommissioned jail. So let's start with the article. You can take the lead on reading this one, Aaron.
Dorchester may be easy to live in, as the town's old sign once claimed, but it's not without its quirks. Recently, the altered welcome sign became a topic of tension during a Tantramar Town Council meeting. Councillor Debbie Wiggins Colwell attempted to raise the issue during the statements and inquiries portion of the agenda, saying, "This inquiry isn't concerning our welcoming sign coming into Dorchester." Before she could finish, Mayor Andrew Black interrupted, warning her that the matter could not be discussed publicly. "If we want to discuss this, we will have to move in camera," he said. Wiggins Colwell pressed further, asking, "I can't make an inquiry about it." Black reiterated, "You can, but you can inquire in camera with us if you wish." With that, the council abruptly cleared the room of spectators and staff, except for essential personnel, to conduct a closed-door session. The discussion about the sign lasted nearly 10 minutes, though the specifics remain confidential. Asked about the sign later, Town CAO Jennifer Bourne declined to comment, citing legal reasons under the Local Governance Act. This secrecy has only added to the public's curiosity about the situation, particularly since the sign is now at the center of a dispute between the town and Bill Steele, who owns the property it sits on. Steele maintains he holds full ownership of the property and the sign itself. "I have full title to the property that the sign is on," he said, adding that his lawyer confirmed that there are no agreements or encumbrances giving the town any claim to it. So Steele says he has maintained the sign and the surrounding area since moving to Dorchester and was surprised to learn of the council's closed-door discussion. "No one from staff or council has approached me about this sign. They abandoned it, like it or not, he said. While the altered sign has drawn both amusement and criticism, Steele remains open to dialogue but suspects the town might resort to legal action instead of simply reaching out to him directly. While Steele acknowledges having positive relations with the new council and staff in the past, he is frustrated by the lack of direct communication. Instead of sending legal letters, they should just knock on my door and ask me, he said. It throws all those good wishes and dreams out the window when you don't have the courage to give your neighbor a call. I'm Bill Steele, damn it.
So what's going on here is there's like the town sign welcoming people. Someone wrote over the motto, changing it to a weird place to live. And it seems like the reason they don't want to talk about it is because there's some kind of battle of ownership between the town and this Bill Steele, who owns the land and believes he owns the sign, which is a pretty amazing dispute to be having.
It's interesting because you move to a place, you buy a piece of property, and it turns out this town's welcome sign is on that property that you just bought. So now you have adopted and inherited the town welcome sign.
Mm-hmm. And when they say in the article that we read there that there's no encumbrances, meaning there's no like legal permission for the town to install things on this property. So it's just like if there had been a post there from a prior owner or something. Like Bill Steele believes he owns this sign. I can only imagine he wrote over it.
Yeah, well, of course he did. It's Bill Steele's sign. It's
I want to talk a bit about him because it turns out that the person who bought the property that the town of Dorchester's sign is on is probably the most weird and interesting resident of the entire town. So when we talked at the beginning about the welcome to Dorchester sign, a weird place to live, I also mentioned that attached to this sign, there's this big kind of a colorful second sign added that's advertising a website for, I think it's stayinajail.com. It's advertising an Airbnb that's run out of a decommissioned jail in Dorchester. It turns out that that's actually what brought Bill Steele to Dorchester. I'm going to play you another news clip. This one is when Global News did a little story on the Ontario man who bought the abandoned jail in Dorchester to run an Airbnb out of it. In case you can't read between the lines, the man from Ontario is the Bill Steele. Here it comes.
Bill Steele rolled in all the way from big city Toronto to Dorchester, New Brunswick this week to seal the deal. He's soon to be the proud new owner of one of New Brunswick's most notorious jails.
I always wanted something really neat to retire in, and Ghostbusters headquarters wasn't available, so you buy a jail, right, and stuff.
Well, it's certainly a unique retirement home. The more than 100-year-old jail is the site of the last double hanging in New Brunswick back in 1936. Andrew Partridge bought the jail about 16 years ago, and while he's a little sad to let it go,
we're trying to grow, right, or reestablish Dorchester as a community to come and work in and live in.
So he's happy it's going to someone from away who appreciates its notorious history. For most, living here would be a morbid thought, but not for Steele. Watching him unload his van, it's not hard to tell from his collection of old movie set props. Steele has, well, unique taste to decor.
I'll put his head back on. It's odd and unusual, just like the jail, so it's a great place to house my collection.
I don't know if the town of Dorchester knew what they were getting themselves into when they installed that welcome sign on a plot of land that would eventually be owned by someone like Bill Steele. I like this story.
I like Bill Steele.
Yeah.
He checks all the boxes for me.
Yeah, if I had learned that the welcome to Halifax sign on my front lawn was mine, oh man, I'd do some weird stuff with it. I think he's being gentle with them.
Yeah, I think he's making all the right moves. And I love his idea of the jail, to be able to stay in a jail and have that experience. And Bill Steele all the way. He's Bill Steele, damn it.
I like him. In that, I looked at his website for the Airbnb. It's actually kind of cool. It doesn't look like Maybe it doesn't look like somewhere I'd want to sleep for the entire night, but it would be cool to be in a cell from like a, 100-year-old jail. Maybe, Dorchester's not too far from Halifax. If you want to maybe plan a road trip,
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah, and we'll stay overnight.
We could screw with the sign. Maybe Bill will let us mess with that sign.
Yeah, we'll put a Keep Canada Weird sticker on it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a perfect brand partnership between Bill Steele and us. I think we should connect with this guy.
I think we should make it the perfect trifecta partnership and get Robin's Donuts involved.
Oh, they could cater the Keep Canada Weird live show and sleepover at Bill Steele's jail.
We should have a Keep Canada Weird sleepover. Even if we can't do it in the jail, we should do it at someone's house sometime. We'll watch horror movies. We'll get pizza. We'll play Truth or Dare.
Okay, I'd be more comfortable asking someone if I could perform cosmetic surgery on them at a dog park than I would be pitching the Keep Canada Weird sleepover to a lot of people.
And that's because you're a sicko.
You can do it. Let's take a quick break. When we get back from our final ad break of the evening, we will catch up with the consumer complaint story from last week. I'm talking about Randy versus the Airbnb host. Last week, we had our good friend Randy on the show. He told us about the situation he was in as a result of leaving an unfortunate typo in a bad review for an Airbnb he stayed at in Halifax. There were 2 guests, him and his girlfriend. He accidentally said there were 3 guests, and that led to a vicious blackmail campaign by the Airbnb host saying, take the bad review down or you'll have to pay for that 3rd guest, which Randy firmly states it was a typo. There was no 3rd guest. I've heard from a lot of Keep Canada Weird listeners who want to weigh in on Randy's Canadian consumer complaint. Let's go through a couple of the voicemails to hear what listeners think about Randy's situation, and then we'll get Randy on the horn because I think he has an update for us. Let's start with someone who is unsupportive of Randy. This is Esther. She doesn't necessarily support Randy. Listen to this.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. I'm responding to Randy's consumer complaint. I'm going to give Randy the benefit of the doubt and assume that he wrote the number 3 in his review instead of the word 3, because had he written the word 3, that would have been really incriminating. Well, my perspective is essentially, I'm not sure this is the hill to die on, and sometimes you just have to take the L. This can be a learning opportunity. It's probably not a great idea to include any details inside a negative review of the business that would suggest that you have broken the business's rules. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And that's just something that can be, unfortunately, used against you. So I would say choose your battles carefully and let this be a lesson about the importance of being careful about what you write and what you put out into the world. All right, everyone, take care and keep up the great work.
So I will answer one kind of question she presents at the beginning is Randy did use the numeral 3 rather than typing out THREE. So he went with his fat finger to hit the 2 and hit the 3 instead. So that supports it being a typo. But her opinion is take the L, Randy. You shouldn't have put all that extra information. It was unnecessary. Pay the $65-ish and live your life.
Right. I can't quite agree with her on that. I think what Randy wrote was appropriate. It's unfortunate with the typo, but I guess the only lesson that I would impart to Randy would be to make sure to double check before you hit send. So once you have it typed out, read it over a couple of times to make sure that everything flows well and reads how you want it to read. And then hit send. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, that's great advice for everybody who's sending written communication to someone else. That written communication can be used against you. Double check. Let's hear from Charlotte, speaking in support of Randy.
Hi, Aaron and Jordan. This is Charlotte from California. I'm calling about Randy Stonewall's Airbnb incident. Randy, you can't give them $65 for a cold shower. It's just a typo. Maybe you can see if Airbnb will let you amend your comment, but I will say it's totally plausible that a couple would take multiple showers on a trip out of town. You know, there's, like you said, after driving a long distance, you want to get cleaned up. If you were, you know, physically intimate later at any point in the trip, you might want to take showers again if you had somewhere to be. So it is just a typo. You've probably got evidence you haven't even thought of, like maybe you texted a friend to say, hey, me and my girlfriend are going to be in town for the night, or something to that effect. But really, I think just sticking to your guns and saying we absolutely did not have another guest. I don't think Airbnb is going to uphold their decision to charge you after leaving a bad review. So, yeah, don't give them your money for those tepid showers. All right, guys, take care.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah, and quite a shocking would be the only word I could describe of her suggesting that Randy and his girlfriend were intimate together in the Airbnb.
Anything can happen at an Airbnb. It's basically Vegas rules.
Yeah, but Randy is not married. So I think I think no one cares about the Airbnb situation anymore. And now this is what's at the front of everybody's mind is.
I'll let you bring this up with them.
Okay. All right.
Let's hear from one more Keep Canada Weird correspondent who wants to weigh in on this, and then we'll connect with Randy for any updates. This is Jennifer speaking in support of Randy.
Hi, Jordan and handsome Aaron Airport. I was just listening to your latest episode, and I had to pause it to come record this voice memo. I'm enraged on Randy's behalf with the whole Airbnb fiasco. The fact that he wasn't able to get hot water for his showers, and now they're charging him $65 for his fictitious third guest. It is absolutely outrageous that they're doing this, and I stand with Randy.
Hashtag I stand with Randy. I would say overall, the listeners of Keep Canada Weird have made it clear they support Randy. They don't think he should pay it.
It seems to be the majority think that way. Now, again, there's been new revelations.
Yeah, Randy tells me that there's been updates. I know you've been with him since I've last spoke to him, so you may know more than I do, but let's get him on the phone and we'll find out exactly where this fiasco stands. And hopefully we can settle our first Canadian consumer complaint tonight. You there, Randy?
Hey, of course.
Before you joined us here, we listened to a few Keep Canada Weird correspondents who were weighing in. The majority of the feedback about your situation were people speaking out in support of you, although there were some tough questions that were raised.
Well, yeah, one of the voicemails, one of the listeners was defending how many showers that you took, because that has been a controversial subject that has come up since you brought the story to us last week. I feel that 4 showers is totally appropriate, as I explained it, that you arrive on the day and you both have a shower each. You wake up in the morning, you both have a shower each. One of the listeners, however, said, and then also imagine that you needed all those showers because you were intimate in the Airbnb, which I don't know if that is allowed or not. Also, you're unmarried as well. You're unwed, so
sure.
So that kind of changes everyone's perspective on the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're all adults here.
Okay, I guess that clears it up. Actually, I'm fine with that answer.
You know, yeah, I mean, the reason why you get an Airbnb, right? Is
Oh, is it?
Wow. We're not here to talk about this. Randy, you promised an update to this story. Where we left off last week, you were confronted with this additional charge. Something popped up and you had to click accept or deny. You denied the charges, knowing that you may potentially have the fight of your life ahead of you. What's happened since Keep Canada Weird broke this story last week?
I mean, I checked on the case. I went in, and it appears that Airbnb has dismissed this case. Justice has been served.
Wow.
So you stood up to them. You took a bold stance, and it worked out.
Case closed.
Anything you want to say to me and Aaron for supporting you throughout this?
Well, I appreciate both you guys always, and also the Keep Canada Weird Army. Well, the ones who came to my defense on here.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of both of us and every listener. Keep Canada Weird when we thank you for sharing your Canadian consumer complaint with us.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Seriously, and if you ever stay in an Airbnb and the shower's just not working the way you want it to, then you give them a 3.
Well, thank you, Randy. And if there's any developments in this story in the future, we should be the first to hear about it.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated right away, Jordan.
All right.
And Aaron, of course.
Thank you for joining us again, our friend. And we're glad you won.
I did win. Thank you.
There you have it.
Yeah, what a roller coaster ride that was. And we were right there, front row seats for the entire journey.
I'm not surprised that I don't think Airbnb dismissed it. I bet you the hosts, they were calling his bluff. They're like, give us the money or pull the review. They didn't want the $65.
No,
they wanted
the review pulled. So they were just trying to see if throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. And they were hoping that he would pull the review and then they could move on with their lives. But they didn't realize who they were dealing with.
No, a very, very petty man.
An unwed man.
They should. Well, what he said last week is they didn't offer him any kind of compensation or anything. If they had said to him, like, sorry about that experience, next time you come to Halifax, we'll give you the place half price, remove the review and give us another chance. If you come up again, we'll give you a half price room. It doesn't work out, then give us a 3-star.
Yeah, for sure.
He would have accepted that.
Yeah, that would be a reasonable response from them.
Or $65, he's like, no, I'm going on a podcast.
I'm going to tell the world about this.
But that was good. For listeners out there, if you enjoyed hearing a Canadian consumer complaint, let us know. We'll do more of these. And if anyone out there has a Canadian consumer complaint, we'd like to hear from you because I'd enjoy doing more of this stuff. I like this.
Yeah.
It's using the podcast for good.
Yeah, that gives us something charitable to work for the rest of our lives, you and I, because we're not really good people that do good things normally.
This is making up for a lot of mistakes we made along the way. And if this is how we can give back, if this is redemption, so be it.
Well, God had put us here for a reason. We just didn't know what it was. And we were really trying different things throughout our entire lives to figure out what that thing was. And now we figured it out. It's Airbnb disputes mostly.
Anything else we got to get into before we wrap this up?
No, bed. I'm tired.
You've had enough? Yeah. Was your drink special? Did it do the trick?
Yeah, I love it. It's a go-to drive drink for me, but I figured I would bring it onto the podcast tonight and share it with you. That's what makes it so special and nice, and it's tasty, and I'm glad you had a nice special drink too.
And I will let listeners of the show know that we are ramping up our production of episodes. We are working on our next batch of Keep Canada Weird Remembers episodes. They are the ones where we will go back and visit an interesting moment in Canadian history, likely a moment you've never heard of, but we have a few really interesting ones in queue, ready to be discussed over the next few weeks, I hope. We'll start ramping those up. But anyway, we've been through enough tonight. We got to put a bow on this. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan Bus Stop Bonaparte, until next time.
Don't believe everything you hear at the dog park. Don't let odd people stick needles in your skin. And certainly, If someone says the salmon DNA will help you in any way, they're lying to you.
Yeah, and Jordan, until next time, my special drink next week will be salmon DNA.
Do you think you could drink it? That's disgusting. Because I just think of... Never mind. I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. But if any one of you out there want to contribute to this mission even more, we need all the correspondence we can get. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, or if you have any thoughts, theories, or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we want to hear about it. The best way to reach us is by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. Aaron and I are really excited to hear from you. Now I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but before I do, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to all the Keep Canada Weird correspondents who contributed to this episode. If you heard a voice message of yours aired, please email me your mailing address at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll have your Keep Canada Weird badge sent right out to you. I just ask that you wear it proudly and use it responsibly. Next, I want to give a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another great evening with me and with you, the listeners of the show. A shout out to you, Nicole, who provides the intro and outro voiceovers. And lastly, and most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. And now, on the topic of support, a very special thanks goes out to the newest premium feed subscribers, Jennifer, Sheila, and Michelle. Thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those new episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. That sounds like something you're interested in. You can go premium right now at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And even if the premium feed isn't for you, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
Hi, Jordan. This is Lydia from California. I was calling to give you my opinion on your consumer complaint Airbnb situation you talked about in your latest episode. I talked to my husband about it, who doesn't listen to the podcast, so completely unbiased. This is what we came up with. We want to know what the typo was. Like, was it a digit, like a 2 versus a 3 digit, or written out? Also want proof of what this extra mess was from this supposed third person. And my husband says if they can't provide that, they can quote unquote go f*** themselves. Yep, that's what we think. Okay, thank you. We love you guys. Bye.